Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is Saturday, November 19th. I'm your host, John June, and of course, got my guy to my left, Greg Penniman, aka G Money. That's if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. But Greg, how are we doing today, my brother?
Doing well. Week 11. Thursday went well. That parlay did hit, you know what I mean? Derrick Henry, 80 rushing yards, got the touchdown and the under hit. I don't know how it did because it was
The under hit?
27-17, right? The under was 41.
It was 41, but 27-17,
Oh,
guess it's
no?
44.
Oh, damn, never mind. No, I tried. Never mind. Oh, well. Yeah. Other than that, good. Doing well. I mean, ready to attack week 11 for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thursday was quite the adventure, or Wednesday was quite the adventure for me. I was dying on the show. People that were watching or listening, it was probably the quickest podcast episode that we've recorded since our inception because I had to get out of here. But luckily, I'm okay today. I'm good, healthy. But Thursday night football was it was the game was it was like one of the better Thursday night football games. There was a lot of action, 27-17, so it hit the over. We saw some great performances like Derrick Henry, had a fantastic performance, even through a touchdown pass. Ryan Tannehill with his by far his best game of the season, throwing for over 300 passing yards. I think he threw, was it one touchdown? He hit 2 touchdown passes. Just a fantastic performance by him. Saw the 2 rookie wide receivers come through in this one. One in Christian Watson that was highly sought after on waivers. We said to be aggressive, and he came through scoring his 5th touchdown in a matter of 4 days, but ends up scoring 2 touchdowns in this game. So definitely came through. And then Treylon Burks, we talked about him. That prop hit the over on his receiving yards. So it was definitely a great performance to see, going over 100 receiving yards on the day for the rookie on 7 receptions. He's a guy that I'm sure we're going to be talking about, come waiver time on Monday, because he's a first round rookie wide receiver. Similar to a guy like Christian Watson that I was saying last week. Like, these guys are typically not available at this time. Like, if he had this game in September, like, he would have already been on rosters because he was probably drafted or, things like that. But he's available because the injury and hasn't had a great start to the season. So you could get a talent like this right now at this point. Those are the types of moves that could help take your team over the top.
Yeah, and definitely helps when Ryan Tannehill, is throwing the ball like he is. I mean, it kind of does definitely ties into that for sure. And Tennessee just hasn't really been thriving in the passing game this year. So hopefully they can kind of turn the tide a little bit. I mean, I know Derrick Henry first, second option, but if they want to become more balanced and they try to get this playoff round and possibly win a playoff game, they need to start emphasis on the pass game for sure. I mean, AJ Brown was once on the team. They know how to do it.
That's exactly the point I was gonna make, right? Like they were missing that element for so long with AJ Brown, right? Like, they didn't have that the trifecta. Call it a trifecta. I think Tannehill is more.
Yeah.
I've been one of probably the biggest
2.5
Tannehill
men.
supporters. Yeah, it's 2.5 men. Yeah, exactly. It was Derrick Henry and AJ Brown really carrying this thing. And they were missing that element even when we saw AJ Brown was injured last year, right? Like, they didn't really have, that element, that piece to their offense. And look what happens when Tannehill gets that guy, goes over 300 yards in the game, right? It helps create more underneath opportunities for a guy like Robert Woods, who had
Mm.
a really good game in this one from a PPR standpoint, 6 for 69 or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
Traylon Burks having that ability to stretch the field, be that physical, 50-50 contested catch guy, also make, do the things that he can do with, after the catch, kind of like what AJ Brown was able to do. I think that this is, big. This really is going to help take this Tennessee offense to another level as we get down the stretch and they try to make a push for, I mean, they lead their division. They're the only team in their division over 500.
Yeah.
So it's not really a problem. But as they, as they go on into these bigger games against the Buffaloes and the Kansas Cities and things like that, this is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely excited for Traylon Burke dynasty managers too.
Oh, trust me, man. It was rough for the first few weeks, but
Yeah.
you just got to hold out. And essentially that talent, that cream always rises to the top, man. So, all right. Anything else you want to talk about through on this game? I mean, Alan Lazard it was probably like he had 11 targets. He had at
Mm.
least like three drops or some form of a miscommunication with Aaron Rodgers. It was just total off game by him, where if you look at the box score, you're like, oh, 10.7, like that's cool. But if you're watching the game, he should have had a much better game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole season kind of just been a lot of, misconnection with those two. You thought he was the lone receiver that was there for a while, besides Randall Cobb. But yeah, it's been a lot of missed opportunities for him. But yeah, other than that, it was good to see Watson just come through for, we were so bullish on
Mhm.
him, and for him to come through is definitely big time. Like it's never usually that first game, but after the big performance, but he really is now the rookie leader in touchdowns after 4 days. Look at that.
Yeah, it's I think what part of why, and and
He even had a
maybe this
carry
is,
too.
yeah, even had a carry. I just needed two more receiving yards, man. I had a really nice parlay. It was Derrick Henry touchdown, Traylon Burks over, uh, on his yardage total, and I just needed Christian Watson to get 50 receiving yards. So I was a little upset about that one, a little upset. But I think part of the reason we were so bullish on Christian Watson is because of who's throwing him the football, right?
Right.
And the frustration level of that guy throwing him the football is just like, give me somebody,
Yeah.
anybody, right? Like
Yeah.
when Dobbs was in here, he was like, oh, you're going to make a play? Okay, I'll give you the football, right? So when Christian Watson, being the 6'4", 200 and, 17, 20-pound wide receiver that he is, that has 4.3 speed, when he's making plays, Aaron Rodgers is going to look to him consistently.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on. We're not going to talk about any of the injuries up front, just because we are going to talk about every game this week, as we did not have a Thursday show. Speaking of, we are, gonna, be on the lookout for, on Monday. We'll discuss what we'll do for the Thanksgiving week. But most likely, I mean, in the past we've done one of two things, right? It's either we've done all the games on one day, like that one Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and do all of them right there, or we do the Thanksgiving games and then we do the rest of the games on Saturday. So just I guess be on the lookout for that. We'll make that announcement on Monday, when Greg and I decide what we want to do. But let's jump into the matchups. And the first matchup on the week comes between a 2-7 Carolina Panthers team that's traveling to Baltimore to take on a 6-3 Baltimore Ravens team. This game has a 43.5-point total, where according to FanDuel Sportsbook, the Baltimore Ravens are 12.5-point home favorites. In terms of injuries here, Gus Edwards was limited with a hamstring. Seems like he's on track to play. Mark Andrews is the one that probably have the most concern about right now. Dealing with a shoulder and a knee injury. He is he was limited in practice, during the week. Deshaun Jackson, who just came back, was elevated from the practice squad in his first game. Looked pretty good. Looked like the Deshaun Jackson that we're used to seeing. But unfortunately hurt his hamstring, so he's been a DNP all week. And then for Carolina, PJ Walker, he's out with a high ankle sprain. Matt Ioannidis, he's out with a calf injury, and then cornerback Dante Jackson was placed on the injured reserve. So definitely a downgrade there for the Carolina Panthers secondary. Greg, where are you going with this matchup here?
I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Carolina to cover. I'm gonna take Baltimore to win. Um, yeah, Carolina's defense is still solid. We talked about that throughout the year. They're pretty solid defense, so they shouldn't get stomped on too much. But on their side, really, I'm looking at a couple pieces. The running backs, Dante Foreman, Triple Hubbard. I think in this matchup, we talked about it a little after Thursday game, but I think Dante Foreman gets the slight edge as the lead back here. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll definitely get a clear picture here. More data. I see who gets the touches, but I'm gonna lean towards Dante Foreman having the leading in the targets and the carries. So more of an RB2 territory. Chuba Hubbard though, in a pinch, if you're able to can throw him out there as well, because it could switch back to him as far as usage. So we'll see. But I think Dante Foreman gets that edge. As far as the receivers, DJ Moore continue to be a strong wide receiver too. As he's gonna dominate hopefully in targets. Terrace Marshall Jr. Didn't come through too much last week, but I think still a little believer in him. As a deep league flex. On the Baltimore side, though, Lamar Jackson, you already know, going to continue to be QB1 value. Gus Edwards being back, he should come back to that RB2 value as well. Kenyon Drake is kind of like the Dante Foreman, Chuba Hubbard thing. Kenyon Drake might have still some value, especially in the red zone. He's been playing well with Baltimore, so he might have some RB3 intrigue. And as far as the tight ends, Mark Andrews, if he's able to go, you're playing him without a doubt. If not, Isaiah Likely, also you should have confidence in him in playing him. If Mark Andrews goes, I think Isaiah Likely still have some fringe tight end one value. So I think he can play him because tight end market is pretty bad. So for a player that of his talent, of an offense that only throws to the tight end, it makes sense.
We got him. I'm gonna
Fringe,
take the
that fringe,
he's fringe.
that
I
fringe.
know, but yeah, we still got him. We got him. I'm gonna take the under here. I'm gonna take Carolina to cover. Gonna take Baltimore to win. For Baltimore, Lamar definitely a QB1 option in this matchup for sure. Gus Edwards, I think he's an RB2 in his first game back. I do agree with what you're saying though. There is, if Gus Edwards isn't 100% right, Kenyon Drake could still end up taking some work. Plus, Kenyon Drake has been good
Yeah,
too. So,
he's been
you
playing
know,
well.
yeah. So there is a reason to get both these guys involved. Mark Andrews, tight end one, if he can go. Isaiah Likely is a top 12 option, even if Andrews goes. But if he doesn't go, then I think he's a high end tight end one. Duvernay, wide receiver 4 or 5, desperation flex play. And then for Carolina, DJ Moore is a high end wide receiver 2. Terrace Marshall, a wide receiver 4. This matchup isn't great. I know the season long numbers look great for a matchup perspective for Baltimore. As a Baltimore like to attack the Baltimore pass defense, but they've been much better as of late. So the only real guy I'm really looking to go into this matchup against is DJ Moore because of the target share. Deontay Foreman, he's an RB3 and a tough matchup. I didn't even think about what you were saying. So it's a great point with Chuba Hubbard. Like not even just the willingness to go back to him, but the game script, right? Like we've seen Deontay Foreman dominating in positive game script, right? Like what happens when they're trailing, right? Does that mean Chuba Hubbard comes in the game? Is he going to be the guy that's going to see some targets? So I think you know you can tell the story there where you can potentially flex Chuba Hubbard, if you're really desperate at the position.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely very intrigued to see out of this game, see how that usage is.
Yeah, let's move on to this next matchup, which is a very busy one. There's a lot of stuff going on here. The 3-7 Cleveland Browns will travel to Detroit to take on the 6-3 Buffalo Bills. Uh, this total has moved a lot, but I'm just gonna stick with the original one because it I feel like it's just gonna be it dropped to like 30 or 41 and a half, and then it went back up to 49. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
stick with the 47-point total. The Buffalo Bills being 9.5 point, well, neutral site favorites. Um, this game is in a dome, which escapes all the weather concerns that were going on in Buffalo. There was like 3 to 6 feet of snow in parts of Buffalo and upstate New York. Um, and so the NFL wanted to move this game because they didn't want to have to divert local resources to to try to clean out a stadium for a football game instead of like making sure that the roads and whatnot were clean in the town for people to actually like live their lives and commute safely. So the issue right now is that the Buffalo Bills are having issues trying to get all their players A to the airport, and B, I believe that the airport right now is closed and they're not even cleared to take off. So this is something to monitor. It's like there is a greater than a 0% chance that this game could be postponed. So just keep that in mind as you set your fantasy lineups. I don't know what that's going to mean, but um, just again, we dealt with this like 2 years ago with COVID, with postponement of games and whatnot. So
Hopefully Monday or
just
Tuesday, if that'd be worst case scenario. They get
yeah,
that
worst
even.
case scenario would be like Monday or Tuesday. We did get Wednesday. We did get Wednesday
Maybe get
afternoon
Wednesday.
football once.
And it's still counted towards that week, so that's crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. Didn't we have football like every day of
We
the
did.
week? One.
Yep.
uh, yeah, that was pretty wild. Anyway, let's talk about some of these injuries. So Jordan Poyer, he returned to practice with an elbow injury. He's questionable. Tremaine Edmonds, the stud linebacker for Buffalo, he's been listed as out for this game, dealing with a groin. Josh Allen removed from the injury report with that elbow, so no concern there. A bunch of players early in the week. The Bills have had a rough week. They've had a rough 3 weeks, actually. Really think about it. Coming off a 2 game losing streak, and now they come into this game. All their players, they couldn't even practice on Monday because they or whatever day was it, Tuesday or Wednesday. All their players were ill, so they didn't even have enough players to field a practice. And then they get this snowstorm, and they couldn't even practice on Wednesday or I believe it was Thursday. They had to have Zoom meetings uh, instead of practice. So Bills has just been going through it.
Yeah, man.
But for Cleveland, David Njoku started out the week as a DNP, but then returned to back-to-back limited practices. So he seems like he's on track to return, which is huge for this Cleveland pass offense because he was a huge part of it before exiting with that high ankle sprain. For me here in this game, I'm gonna take the over. I was anticipating snow, so initially I took the under, but I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Cleveland to cover 9.5. I'm gonna take Buffalo to ultimately win the game. For Buffalo, Josh Allen, he's a QB1. Stephon Diggs, high end wide receiver 1. Devin Singletary, he's in RB2 territory. Gabe Davis, definitely in wide receiver 2 territory for me. James Cook, I think, with bye weeks and things, he can be in play as an RB3. Not interested in Dawson Knox. He's been practically non-existent. For Cleveland, I absolutely love the Cleveland pass offense. Jacoby Brissett was my initial pick for stream of the week, but then the weather pushed me away from him. But now with the move to a neutral field in a dome, I'm back on board with Jacoby Brissett. I said Mariota was my stream of the week, but I would play Brissett over Mariota. I think he's a QB1 in this matchup. Both his wide receivers are in fantastic spots. Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, they're both wide receiver ones. Donovan Peoples-Jones has the most receiving yards in the NFL without having scored a touchdown. So I mean, he's Not saying he's due, but he's due. Njoku looks like he might be back. So tight end one, fire him up. Nick Chubb, borderline RB1, and then Kareem Hunt is basically unplayable until further notice.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I'm also gonna take Cleveland to cover, but I'm gonna take the Bills to win. Um, on the Bills side, definitely agree with all your points. Josh Allen, QB1, Stephon Diggs must start as well. Uh, and as far as the receivers, Gabe Davis as well. You can play him. I think he's got more of a boom upside in this one, especially because they're not really using Dawson Knox. It's really the main two receivers. Um, Isaiah McKenzie has been leading in that slot more than Khalil Shakir nowadays. So I think he has some deep flex intrigue as well. As far as that third pass catcher for them, Devin Singletary is in a great spot here. So I'm all for playing him as a RB2, a strong RB2 with some RB1 upside. On the Cleveland side, Nick Chubb continuing to be the RB1 monster that he is. Jacoby Brissett, I think he's like in that borderline QB1, probably like QB 13, 14 range for me. Um, and yeah, I agree with the receivers. Mark Cooper, you're starting him. Thomas People Jones has been definitely on a tear. I mean, he's got, I think it's 6 straight games, well over 50 yards now. He's just been very active, very involved. So he's going to continue to be a very solid option. I have him as a wide receiver two, strong wide receiver two. And David Njoku, he's back. Play him for sure. Tight end one, easy.
Most definitely. I mean, if you were able to scoop up Njoku early in the season off waivers, like that was huge. I mean, the injury obviously sucks, but
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
huge.
Njoku and Harrison Bryant, both of them. There
Right?
you go.
The tight end insurance policy
Tight
right
end
there.
handcuff. Yeah, tight end insurance. Yep.
All right, let's move on to this next matchup. Also 1 p.m. The 8-1, 8-1, because I said it on that Monday that they would lose. But anyway, 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Indianapolis to take on the 4-5-1 Indianapolis Colts, who are undefeated under head coach Jeff Saturday. That is a fact.
It
But this
is.
game has a 44.5 point total, and the Indianapolis Colts are 7.5 point home underdogs in this game. In terms of the weather, we're okay here. This game's in a dome. In terms of injuries for Indianapolis, DeForest Buckner, he was a DNP early in the week with a neck injury, so he's questionable for this game. Jelani Woods, the tight end, he was also a DNP early in the week with a shoulder injury. Deion Jackson was also a DNP early in the week, and then Shaq Leonard, the linebacker, was placed on injured reserve with a back injury, will not return for the rest of the season. So that's a blow to the Indianapolis defense. Who, I mean, Leonard's been in and out of lineup all year, so it's not like it changes much of anything for them. For Philadelphia, Dallas Goddard, this one is tough, man. This was probably of the gut punches I've received this year. This was probably one of the toughest ones to endure. Dallas Goddard ends up on injured reserve with a shoulder injury. Um, Expected to miss at least 4 games. I was reading up on this last night, though. It seems as if the nature of his injury, he should be able to return by week 15. So that's the first week of the fantasy playoffs. So if you are the Dallas Goddard manager and you just we just got to keep it afloat for 4 weeks, guys. And he might be back. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you get the bye week, and that gives you an extra week to like not have to play him coming off his first game from the injury. But seems like this is, and the Eagles did the right thing here. They put him on injured reserve. They're like, no, we're not even going to go through this whole
Yeah.
thing of you going limited practices and whatnot. Like, just go rehab it. We'll see you in 4 weeks. So I love that aspect of it. If I'm the Dallas Goddard manager, I mean the injury sucks, but if it was going to happen, I prefer they do it this way. And then cornerback Josh Jobe, he is out for the Philadelphia Eagles. Greg, where are you in terms of this matchup here?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Philly to cover and Philly to win. The Colts have probably been one of the most inconsistent teams this year. So it seems like right when you think they're kind of good, they did also play Vegas last week, but every time they think they're pretty good, they come up with a little stinker after. So I think Eagles do bounce back. As far as the Eagles side, Jalen Hurts, QB1 must start. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, they should get a little bump now with the Dallas Goedert not being out. That should filter some targets towards them a little more. The matchup is tough, but I still have AJ Brown. It's a borderline wide receiver one. Devontae Smith as a solid wide receiver two. And they should kind of get a lot of targets in this. Uh, as far as the running backs, Miles Sanders, he's been solid all year, solid RB2 in the matchup, which is just okay. And then on the Colts side, Matt Ryan not getting fooled by that performance. I'm not playing him. JT though, I'm all in on that for sure. Back to RB1 value, um, especially with under new coaching staff. They want to run the ball, continue to run that ball. So he's an RB1. As far as a receiver, I do like Michael Pittman's matchup. I mean, Michael Pittman in this matchup. I think he's wide receiver one, borderline kind of like where AJ Brown is, and Paris Campbell. I think he's now kind of the second receiver I trust more than Alec Pierce. So if you need that ancillary guy, Paris Campbell's pretty good. I think he's wide receiver 3 value, flex value.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the under here. I'm gonna take Indianapolis to cover. I will take Philly to win. Um, for Indy, I'm so upset because JT was coming into a smash spot. Like he was coming into a smash spot. We've been talking about this Philly rush defense for like 3 weeks now. Been saying you could run on them since like Thursday Night Football, a couple weeks ago. And then what does Philly do? What smart football teams do? They recognize they have a weakness, and then they not only get one player to help, they get two players. They go out, they sign Linval Joseph, longtime defensive tackle, run stuffer. Then they go and get Ndamukong Suh to help bulk up the middle of that defense because Jordan Davis was put on the injured reserve, with a high ankle sprain, and he was a big part of that Philly run defense. And without him, they've been hurting. So JT gets a slight downgrade. I think the volume is still going to be there. Just gets a slight downgrade here, but I was really looking forward to this spot here for JT. But Michael Pittman Jr. the the numbers don't look great, but I do agree with what you're saying from a matchup standpoint. I think him with Darius Slay is not a terrible mismatch for Michael Pittman Jr. Just with his size and his length, and then the target volume should be there.
Mm-hmm.
Should be enough that he can make do on these targets. So probably have him as a middle to lower end wide receiver 2. Paris Campbell, I agree with you. He's a wide receiver 3. I mean, Matt Ryan loves to target him, especially in the short and the intermediate, as well as when you consider there's no Naheem Hines, right? Like, so some of those targets that Naheem Hines might have been soaking up, those shorter tier targets, like those might end up going to Paris Campbell here. So for Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, he's a quarterback 1. AJ Brown, high end wide receiver 2. Devontae Smith, a wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside. Miles Sanders, he's definitely an RB2. I'm curious to see who takes the reins at tight end with Goddard out. I'm not playing anybody, but I think there's an opportunity in this offense the same way that we go to Arizona and we say, hey, we're going to pick up Trey McBride and we're going to play him, right? Like, I think that a similar thing can happen here just because of the style of offense that they play. It's like Baltimore, right? Like, Baltimore is not going to lose Mark Andrews and be like, oh, well, we're just going to stop using a tight end, right? Like, that's part
Right.
of their offense. That's who they are. That's what they want to do. And I think it's the same thing here with Philadelphia. It's just a matter of, is it going to be Jack Stahl? Is it going to be this? I can't even say his name. Grant
Grant
C is what I.
Caratera. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Or is it Tyree Jackson, the converted quarterback, right? So like I'm waiting and seeing. I'm not gonna make any moves based on it. I'll just want to see what happens. But yeah, that's really it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to this next matchup.
Ooh, the rematch.
The rematch. The 6-3 New York Jets travel to New England, Foxborough, to take on the 5-4 New England Patriots. This game has a 38.5-point total, where the New England Patriots are 3.5-point home favorites. If the New York Jets win this game, they are first place in the AFC East. If they lose this game, they are in last place in the AFC East. So talk about pivotal, right? So,
Oh
um,
man, and that means
and
that's
if
the same for for New England almost. Oh well, almost. They'll be second.
almost, yeah,
Yeah, they
they
would
would
need
they
Buffalo
would
to lose
they would need Buffalo to lose,
in
but
Miami.
Miami would be in first place because Miami's 7-3 and they're on
All right,
bye, so
got you.
they're just gonna watch all the AFC East teams just try to lose or beat up on each other. So, definitely, this game has playoff implications. I think if the Jets win this game, they have an 88% chance of making the playoffs. If they lose, that plummets to like 48%. So
Okay.
yeah, to say that I will be watching this one, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. For in terms of injuries for New England, Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle, integral part of the Patriots, defensive line, rush defense, pass rush. He's placed on injury reserve with a knee injury, so he'll miss at least the next 4 games. Don't know the extent of that injury. Wide receiver Devontae Parker, he's questionable with a knee. Punter Jack Bailey is doubtful with a back. Edge rusher Josh Uche questionable with a hamstring. And then for the New York Jets, wide receiver Corey Davis and defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins are both out of this game. For also for the Jets, guard Nate Herbig, he's questionable with a shin injury. And then tight end Kenny Aboa is doubtful with a calf. In terms of this game here, I'm going to take. Oh man,
Yeah, this
I'm
is
like
probably the
looking.
toughest game to call for the week.
I'm gonna take the over on 38 and a half. I should be taking the under here, but I'm gonna just stick with my original pick of the over. But I am gonna take the New York Jets to cover, and I am gonna take the New York Jets to win. They should have won the previous matchup against these two teams. Um, Zach Wilson made some boneheaded interceptions, but for the most part, the Jets did control that game. For New England, Ramondre is an RB1. Jacoby Myers is, he had a great game against them last time. Hasn't been great recently, but I think you go to him as a strong wide receiver too. For the Jets, Garrett Wilson, I think, has to be treated as a wide receiver one. Michael Carter and James Robinson should both be involved. I think you can treat them both as lower end running back twos, especially with the bye weeks. And then Tyler Conklin, I think he's a top 10 option at the position. I've cracked the code, Greg, the Tyler Conklin
Okay,
code.
okay.
If you look at games in which the Jets have positive game script, right? They're positive game script. I haven't done the math on like what's the percentage of that they have positive game script. But if you look at those games in which they don't have to throw the football, they can run the football, they're playing with a lead, Tyler Conklin has single-digit PPR points. If you look at the games in which they have faced negative game script, so like the Baltimore game, the Cleveland game, the
Hmm.
Pittsburgh game, the last New England game, double-digit PPR points. So
Okay.
if you
Okay.
believe that the Jets are going to face some negative game script here, they're going to be trailing for most of it, trying to overcome a double-digit lead or double-digit deficit rather, then yes, you play Tyler Conklin. If you see it as like a game where they're going to run the football, they can control it, they're going to be playing with a lead, Tyler Conklin's probably not your best bet.
Yeah, this is a really tough game to call. I mean, I'm gonna take the under. Uh like playing in New England is tough, but the Jets are 4-0 on the road. Like you guys are a really good road team. You guys don't know how to win at home. I'm gonna I'm gonna take the Jets to cover, but the Pats to win. Um, on the Pat side, Ramondre Stevenson definitely RB1 value here. Jacoby Myers also I think a lineup lock. He's a wide receiver two, a strong wide receiver two. Um, that's pretty much it for the New England side. That's why I got the under. It's going to be a tough game. On the Jets side, though, Michael Carter and James Robinson, both, I think, RB3s. I mean, New England's really good against the run. Probably one of the best rush defenses in the league right now. I think they could still crack the top 30, but I'm having RB3 category. Um, as far as the Garrett Wilson, I'm with you on that. Strong wide receiver 2, has some wide receiver 1 upside. Just been balling as a rookie wide receiver all year. And Tyler Conklin, fringe tight end 1. Yeah, depending. I like your logic there, so I'm on board. I really don't know. This game could go either way. The Jets are super good on the road. They really need this game. It's a divisional matchup. Like usually they get a split, but they haven't beat the Patriots in a while, so they gotta break through
13
at some point
straight.
though. they
13
gotta
straight.
they gotta break through. They gotta break through at some point. Oh man.
Oh man.
The first
Yeah.
matchup was the breakthrough. That was their chance.
That was the chance.
Yeah,
That was the one. But you know
yeah,
what? Jets, you said they're undefeated on the road.
they
They're
are.
also undefeated when they wear the white jerseys with the black pants. And they
That's
didn't wear those last time. They
oh,
wore
okay, okay.
they wore the all blacks because they were trying to be cool. It was Halloween weekend. They wore the all blacks. They had, CJ Mosley show up in a Bane mask.
Mm,
But this time, they're going back to business. White
word.
jerseys, black pants.
I like it.
Those are that combo is undefeated. So, they're on the road wearing that jersey combo. I'm just saying.
Yeah, nah, I'm with you.
All right. I mean, all in all, it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, if we lose, I will be a shell of myself on Monday. But that's really what it comes down to.
Still a lot of football left for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Oh no, a lot of
yeah,
football left. It just feels great to like actually care about football for more than just fantasy. So
yeah,
like
yeah.
that part has been awesome. So I'm grateful for that for sure. Let's move on to this next matchup here. The 5-5 Washington Commanders, the only team in the NFL to have beaten the Philadelphia Eagles.
Crazy.
Travel to Houston to take on the 1-7-1 Houston Texans. This game has a 40.5 point total, where the Washington Commanders are 3-point road favorites here. In terms of weather, we're okay because it's in a dome. In terms of injuries, Brandon Cooks, he was on the injury report with a hip and a wrist, so he's questionable for this game. Nico Collins, who's dealing with a groin, was pulled off the injury report, so he's good to go in this one. And then Dare Ngubawale was a DNP early in the week with a foot injury. For Washington, linebacker Cole Holcomb, running back J.D. McKissick, defensive end Chase Young, and tight end Armani Rogers are all out of this one. And the running back Jonathan Williams is questionable with a knee. Greg, where are you going with this matchup here?
I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take Washington to cover and Washington to win. On Washington side, I do like Taylor Heineke. He's my quarterback stream of the week. So I think, depending on how the game goes, he can have some QB1 upside in this. But he's in that borderline QB1 territory. The running backs have a great matchup here, smash spot for both Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. Antonio Gibson has been the better back, so he's in a better smash spot here. But I wouldn't be afraid to play Brian Robinson also in this matchup. Terry McLaurin also in a good spot here. He's a strong wide receiver too with some wide receiver 1 upside. Curtis Samuel, same every week. That safe floor wide receiver 3, continue to play him as such. And then on the Texan side, it's really just Dameon Pierce, man. You really gotta look at him as a strong RB1. As far as the receivers, they do have one that's relevant every week. So I think it's gotta be, at this point, I'm more on leaning Nico Collins. Again, not really hype about a person that doesn't want to be on the team, Brandon Cooks. And just first, you're running through the run game, though. Dameon Pierce for sure. Nico Collins is more of a desperation flex option. But yeah, all lock in Dameon Pierce.
So I said that the Washington would beat Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's like that.
But Houston's going to beat Washington. So I'm taking the under. I'm taking Houston to cover, Houston to win this game here. For Houston, Dameon Pierce, he's an RB1. Uh, I agree with you. I like Nico Collins over Brandon Cooks, but he's more like a wide receiver 3 or 4. I think he can make a big play or score a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing about Nico Collins is his schedule down the stretch. He gets some great, not even great matchups, just great games to be in. You
Mm-hmm.
know, gets to play against Kansas City, gets to play against Atlanta, gets to play against Tennessee. I think he has matchups against Jacksonville as well. So just down the stretch, he's plays in some either good matchups or games where, hey, he'll be trailing and you're going to have to throw the football. So somebody I think that should be on your roster. You could
Yeah.
play him as a desperation flex. Use him. I mean, we don't have any bye weeks week 12, but we've got some bye weeks in week 13 and 14. Have no idea why we do that, but we have them. So, Nico Collins could help you then, and he could also help you down, down the playoff stretch, right? So,
Yeah.
um, somebody I think, should be rostered, even if you're not going to start him in this matchup. I think you can play him in this matchup, like you said, as a desperation flex, but definitely should be on your roster. For Washington, Scary Terry, he's back. Wide
Yes, sir.
receiver 1, give this man a Heineke. Like that's all we
They
need,
drinking
man.
too much on that plane. That's what they.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, we talked about Heineke not drinking Heineken or doing a deal with Heineken. Like I forgot who we did a deal with, but then he's drinking Busch Light. Like I don't know, whatever, man. Like
They got fined though just now actually for well, I don't know if they for drinking on the team plane on the way back.
Yeah, I mean, there was a situation in Tennessee where the offensive coordinator got pulled over for speeding and then gets charged with a DUI.
Oh,
So the league sent out a memo that no drinking on team planes, which I get it, I guess. Like I understand, right? Like people are gonna drive back, end up driving back from the facility and things like that. Like I understand, like, but don't they have that service where like
well, they have the
you
team bus,
call?
like yeah, or the service, yeah, the service,
Just imagine the team bus just drops everybody at their home, like the school
like a
bus.
school bus, yeah.
No, but yeah, in all honesty though, like I feel like the league should, again, it's the no fun league as they call it, but like there should be some kind of like middle ground here, right? Like where they have the transportation system, right? So like use that, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, both in a great matchup here. Brian Robinson obviously got 26 carries last week, but he's a bit more touchdown dependent and game script dependent. So Gibson has the edge there for me. And then Curtis Samuel, he's a wide receiver too. All right, let's move on to this next matchup. Also 1 p.m. We've got the 3-6 Los Angeles Rams traveling to New Orleans to take on the 3-6 New Orleans Saints. This game has a 39.5 point total, where the New Orleans Saints are 3.5 point home favorites. In terms of injuries, Matthew Stafford cleared from the concussion protocol, so he will play. Offensive tackle AJ Jackson was placed on injured reserve with an illness. Cooper Kupp, obviously, we talked about, he was placed on injured reserve with a high ankle sprain. So, doesn't seem likely that he'll make it the rest of he'll be able to play the rest of the season. For New Orleans, defensive end Cam Jordan, linebacker Pete Werner, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, running back Mark Ingram, safety JT Gray, offensive tackle James Hurst, defensive end Marcus Davenport are all out of this game. And then guard Andrews Pete is questionable with a triceps injury. And I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Rams to cover. I will take the Saints to win. For the Rams, I think the only player that you could even potentially think about playing with any sort of confidence is Tyler Higbee. And I don't even think I have that much confidence, but it's the tight end position. So you're desperate. Play him, I guess, right? 9 targets, that's fine. He will be Mr. Necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, right? But after that, I'm good. I want
Yeah.
nothing to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
this offense.
Yeah.
Not a thing.
You weren't even
Not a
touching
thing.
it unless it was Cooper Kupp, so there's no
No,
reason to go to it now.
there's no reason, right? I will take a wait and see approach. Yeah, is it going to be Ben Skoranek? Maybe. Is it going to be Allen Robinson? Maybe, but probably not. Is it going to be Van Jefferson? Definitely not. So I'm good, bro. I'm good. On the New Orleans side, it's Kamara, it's Chris Olave, and that is it. That is all I want from this game. I'm after that. I want nothing to do with it. I don't even want to see it. I don't want to watch it. I don't even know what the score is because it's probably going to be like 17-4 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, I'm taking the under as well. I'm gonna take the Rams to cover, but I'm gonna take the Saints to win. Um, the analysis is spot on. Like Tyler Higbee is the only one I'm really touching on the Rams side of the ball. Because yeah, he's a tight end that's probably gonna lead the team in targets. That's worth it for the tight end position. And the Rams side, yeah, Kamara is RB1, solid RB1, and Chris Olave RB2 value. Good in a great matchup. I mean, average matchup. He's in a solid matchup. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But hey, man, Kyron Williams, don't forget my man Kyron Williams every week, yo. He's
I mean, yeah. I mean, he proved to us that he was a real person.
yeah, a real person now. Yep. So now
So
now the
now
snaps
we
just
just
got to go up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we'll see.
Wait and see.
So,
Wait
but
and see.
even that thing's like a 4-man backfield. You got Cam Akers, Daryl Henderson, Ronnie Rivers, Kyron Williams, Malcolm Brown. I think I saw getting carries at some point. Like I'm good, bro. All right, let's move on to this next matchup, man. The 3-6 Detroit Lions travel to MetLife to take on Greg's 7-2
Oof.
New York Giants. This game has a 46.5-point total where the New York Giants are 3-point home favorites. In terms of whether we're okay in terms of injuries for Detroit, DJ Shark, designated to return from the injured reserve, has not been activated, but he is eligible. Jamal Williams was DNP early in the week with an illness. Josh Reynolds has been dealing with this back injury. He was a DNP early in the week. I don't know if he'll go. Deshaun Elliott, the safety, he was a limited participant with a concussion. And then for the New York Giants, Daniel Bellinger, he's out with the eye injury. Wide receivers Wan'Dale Robinson and Kenny Galladay, they're both questionable with a hamstring. Dexter Lawrence is questionable, the defensive tackle who's having a fantastic season for the Giants. Evan Neal, the offensive tackle, he is doubtful with a knee. And then offensive guard Shane Lemieux, he was designated to return from the injured reserve. Not sure if he's been activated or if they plan to activate him, but he is eligible as well. Greg, where are you going with this matchup here?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the Giants to cover. Take the Giants to win. Yeah, it should be a fun game. Hopefully a high scoring game on the Giants side. Daniel Jones in the smash spot as well. All the relevant pieces that you can play against Detroit is gonna be in a great spot here. So Daniel Jones, he's a QB1. Saquon Barkley should finish as the RB1 hopefully in this matchup. I mean, he is going to dominate this Detroit Lions team. Hopefully they give him the ball 30 times here in this matchup. They really want to dominate. Darius Slayton, I'm continuing to chug him out there as well as a solid wide receiver two option. I think that's wide receiver two upside in this matchup. Um, and then that's about it for the Giants side. I think they, again, use their defense to kind of make some plays. On the Lions side, Jared Goff, I think he's a QB2 super flex value. Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams is definitely the running back to play right now. So he's got strong RB2 upside. DeAndre Swift, I think, is RB3 with some RB2 upside depending on how the game goes. And as far as the receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, continue to play him. The man's a beast, wide receiver one. You love to see it. And that's really about it. No Josh Reynolds. Khalif Raymond's really had his opportunity to kind of take that second role. I mean, if you want to throw a desperation flex out there for him, you could, but because he'll probably get targeted. But I'm just looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown for sure.
Yeah, in this matchup here, I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the Giants to cover. I'm gonna take the Giants to win. The crazy. The Giants will be 8-2 if this
Eight
goes
and two.
how we think it'll go. So crazy. For Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown, high end wide receiver two. Jamal Williams has been limited, but I have him as an RB2. Swift, from a projection standpoint, totally agree with you. Won't look great based on recent production, but I'm buying in, man. I mean, Swift.
You are?
He was talking about how he's getting healthier. He's pushing through the injuries. Jamal Williams was limited during the week. Granted, it was an illness. It's not like a knee or an ankle or something like that.
If
But
Lawrence doesn't play too,
um,
that definitely gives a bump to the running game
yeah,
for Detroit.
correct. If Dexter Lawrence doesn't play for the Giants, that definitely gives a bump there. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna rank him. Like I said, from a projection standpoint, I totally agree. Like he looks like crap. Like he's RB3, RB4. Like don't no sense in playing him. But I'm gonna rank him inside my top 24 this week, and I think he has some RB1 upside. You know, yeah, and that's really what it comes down to for me. And then for the Giants, love Daniel Jones this week. He's a QB1. I mean, obviously it's Detroit. Like Greg said, insert name
Yes, sir.
first, Detroit.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Saquon, he's an RB1, and then Darius Slayton. I'm finally on board. Wandell has been disappointing. And Darius Slayton is a wide receiver too. So I'm all in there.
Let's get it. Let's get it. 8-2, baby.
Um, let's move on to this next game, man. The 3-6 Chicago Bears travel. That can't be right.
On
Are
the
they three
Falcons?
and seven?
The
Are they,
Falcons, yeah, I think they are because they were one game back in their division.
the Falcons are
Well, the
four and
Falcons are four
six,
and six. Yeah, the Bears are three and
but the
seven.
Bears are 3-7.
Yeah,
Okay, because I was like, they haven't had their bye week yet. They have to have had played 10 games. Um, so the 3-7 Chicago Bears travel to Atlanta to take on the 4-6 Atlanta Falcons. This game has a 50.5 point
as it should.
total, where the Atlanta Falcons are 3-point home favorites. We got a Justin Fields homecoming,
Okay.
Georgia kid returning to Atlanta. So you know what that means. Anyway, for in terms of injuries or whether we're okay with some games in a dome. In terms of injuries, AJ Terrell, the cornerback for Atlanta, limited participant in practice. He's missed the last few games with a hamstring injury, so that could be a nice boost for the Atlanta pass defense. Uh, Offensive guard Jalen Mayfield, he was he's designated to return from the injury reserve with a back injury. Felipe Franks was a DNP with a calf, and then for Chicago, Khalil Herbert placed on injured reserve with a hip injury. I don't think he's going to play the rest of the season. I had to make a decision in a league. I couldn't hold him and Dallas Goedert, so I went ahead and dropped Khalil Herbert because I really don't think he plays again this year. And then for Cole Kmet, he was on the injury report with a thigh injury, so something to monitor as we head into Sunday. Um, I am going to take the over here. I am going to take Chicago to cover. I will take Chicago to win. For Atlanta, Mariota is my stream of the week. Cordell Patterson, I think definitely has some major upside in this game. So does Tyler Algier as well. They both played well in recent weeks. Cordell Patterson didn't have a great game last week, but his first game back from injury, he played well. So, um, one of those things is not like the other. Cordell Patterson's a good player, so yeah. Anyway, not going to Drake London though. I just need to see it again. We've seen it early in the year, but things have been a little bit different. So, you can play him if you're desperate, but definitely not looking to do that. And then for Chicago, Justin Fields, high end QB1. In our League of Extraordinary People, I'm playing him over Lamar Jackson this week. I'm trying to decide in another league if I want to play him over Josh Allen. Really thinking about it. But yeah, that's where we've come with Justin Fields right now. Darnell Mooney, he's a wide receiver one in a great matchup. Cole Kmet, a tight end one option. Monty could be in line for increased volume. So he's in play as a high end RB3 with RB2 upside, just because Justin Fields still dominates all of this rushing work and the touchdowns as well. So, and he doesn't get receptions. So, yeah. But Atlanta's terrible, but against the pass. But yeah. Greg, you are muted.
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Atlanta to cover. I'm gonna take Atlanta to win. Um, on the Atlanta side, agree with you. Marcus Mariota should be in a good spot here. He has a chance to finish as a QB1. The running backs have been playing well. Well, Tyler Algier, I think, is the main guy here. But besides Cordell Patterson and Tyler Algier have been playing well. I think they're both playable. Cordell Patterson should be in the smash right here as far as matchup wise. So he should have a solid game. The receivers, Drake London, I think is deep league flex in that area. I think if you need a play and you're desperate, Drake London could be a play. He's also in a great spot here. Uh, as far as Kyle Pitts also, he's boomer bust tight end one at this point. I mean, he's either really going to do nothing for you or get you, 10 to 15 points. On the Bears side, though, Justin Fields going to continue to dominate, high in QB1. David Montgomery, I think I'm a little more bullish on him. I think he's got some RB1 upside. I'm gonna rank him as RB2 though, just because Khalil Herbert being out, he should dominate all those carries. And then as far as the receivers, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, uh, wide receiver three, and Cole Kmet. I got to keep rolling my man Cole Kmet, man. He's French tight end one, can finish as a he's on the road now. Got to keep playing him. He's hot.
Wow, you just made me realize that for the first time since he's entered the league, I did not talk about Kyle Pitts.
That's true. That is a fact. Since he's entered the league, for sure. That's a fact. That's a fact.
He is literally my tight end 12. So
Yeah, boomer bust, tight end one. Yeah.
Do with it what you will, people. Yeah,
Cole
that's
Kmet,
crazy.
Kyle Pitts.
Cole Kmet.
Yeah, Cole Kmet, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
Which this feels weird because I was the Cole Kmet guy coming into the year.
You were.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to this next matchup. 4:05 p.m. Like, do we have to does this game have to be a game? Like, can it just not? Like, the 2-7 Las Vegas Raiders traveling. Not in prime time.
Yeah.
So thank God. Traveling to Denver to take on the 3-6 Denver Broncos. This game has a 41.5 point total, where the Denver Broncos are 2.5 point home favorites. In terms of weather, we're okay. In terms of injuries, wide receiver Kendall Hinton, DNP early in the week with a shoulder, but it seems like he'll be on track to play. Jerry Jeudy, he's out with an ankle. KJ Hamler out with a hamstring. Billy Turner, the offensive tackle, was placed on injured reserve recently. For Las Vegas, Amir Abdullah was a DNP early in the week with an illness. Devontae Adams is questionable with an abdomen injury, and linebacker Denzel Perriman, he's questionable with a hip. In terms of this matchup, Greg, where are you going?
As far as this matchup, I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take the Broncos to cover and the Broncos to win, just because the Raiders are just really pitiful. On the Broncos side, Russell Wilson is in a great spot here matchup wise. So I think he has some streaming value. As far as the running backs, though, I'm not really too bullish on them. I think Melvin Gordon and Latavius Murray, both RB3s in this matchup. Whoever gets a touchdown could finish as an RB2, but I think they're rated RB3s. The receivers, Cortland Sutton is the only one I really trust. Obviously Jerry Jeudy being hurt, he's a wide receiver 2. Greg Dulcich, fringe tight end 1. On the Raiders side, not really touching anyone except Josh Jacobs. Looking at him pretty hard. He's an RB1. Continue to play him such. Devontae Adams, wide receiver 1. And that's about it. Foster Moreau. Yeah, if you're the Darren Waller manager and you got Foster Moreau, you're most likely playing him. So yeah, he hopefully can continue to pick up that usage. Not going to be half the production that Darren Waller is, but he should get targeted. So he's like a tight end 2 with some possible tight end 1 upside.
This game is so two teams that coming in the year thought would be good. We thought that the AFC West would give us potentially 3 playoff teams.
It's on that east side, man. All on the east. East side football.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Do you know if the Denver Broncos scored 20 points in each one of their games that they'd be 8-1?
Wow. That's not even 3 touchdowns. Like, that's 3 extra points.
If If you make that number 17, they would be 7-2.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. That's
so,
crazy. That's so
so
bad. So bad.
I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Denver to cover. I will take Denver to win. The last time these teams faced off, the Raiders got after the Denver Broncos. Actually, they beat the Raiders beat the Broncos 32-23. So definitely interesting there. But
They scored over 20.
um,
There you go.
oh man, actually, I have to check that now because it's like, is it when they score over 20? They okay. No, I just wanted to see if they score over 20, like, do they lose? But anyway, um, I'm gonna take well, from a fantasy perspective, I agree with you. Russell Wilson is in a fantastic spot. I mean, he's QB1, dare I say it. Kendall Hinton is a wide receiver 3. Uh, you know, remember that guy playing quarterback in
Yep,
a
playing quarterback for one game. Yep. Thinking
Cortland,
the average person could just play quarterback, and they realize
right?
that's not gonna
Not
happen.
gonna happen. Cortland Sutton has been terrible, but this matchup is really nice. So he's a wide receiver 3. I'm with you, Melvin Gordon, Lat Murray. It's really tough to want to play them, but I think they both have RB2 upside in this matchup because the Raiders are terrible. Like,
Terrible.
they're absolutely terrible. Gordon and Jeff Saturday. So um, for Greg Dulcich, I think he's a tight end 1. For the Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs, he's an RB1. Devontae Adams is a wide receiver 2 in a tough matchup, I would say, with Pat Surtain the second, or PS2 as they call him. But he's been shadowing wide receivers all season. I expect him to continue to shadow Devontae Adams here. And then Foster Moreau has tight end 1 upside with filling in for Darren Waller for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this next game here. We got 4:25 p.m. Dallas Cowboys, 6-3 Dallas Cowboys travel to Minnesota to take on the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings. This game has a 47.5 point total, where the Dallas Cowboys are 1.5 point road favorites here. In terms of injuries, for Dallas, Zeke was limited earlier in the week with a knee injury. Seems like he's on track to return. And Minnesota, they're okay from an injury standpoint. Justin Jefferson showed up with a toe injury early, but he's good to go. For in terms of the game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Minnesota to cover. I will take Minnesota to win. For Dallas, CeeDee Lamb, fantastic spot here. He's a top 3 option for me on the week. Dak Prescott, he's a quarterback 1. Dalton Schultz, he's a tight end 1 on the high end side. Michael Gallup, he's in play as a wide receiver 3. Tony Pollard, he's an RB2, as is I think Zeke is probably an RB3 in his first game back, but he has the RB2 upside because of his, the touchdown opportunity and things like that. And then for Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1, Dalvin Cook, an RB1. Kirk, I know people are afraid this week. I think he's on the higher end QB2 side, but I would play Daniel Jones ahead of him. I would play um, Jacoby Brissett ahead of him. That one might get me in trouble, but it's Jacoby Brissett and it's Kirk Cousins. I don't know. Maybe it gets me in trouble. I don't know. TJ Hawkinson, he's a top 3 option, and then Adam Thielen, he's a wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take Minnesota to cover, Minnesota to win. Um, on the Minnesota side, I do like Kirk Cousins a little more. I think he's got some borderline QB1 play. Just been playing pretty well this year. Through all the turmoil, people not thinking Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's been pushing through that. So I like him here in this matchup. Dalvin Cook, RB1, obviously very consistent this year. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1. Adam Thielen, wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 upside. And TJ Hawkinson continue to play him as a high end tight end 1, his new Minnesota role. On the Cowboy side, Dak is also in that Kirk Cousins range. I think he's also QB high in QB2 with some around that QB1 play. Zeke and Tony Pollard, both RB low end RB2s. I think whoever gets that upside, the more upside, I think it belongs to Pollard at this point. But I think both of them are playable. CeeDee Lamb, great spot here, just like Jefferson, wide receiver one, and that's about it. Dalton Schultz, of course, as well, is in tight end one category. But yeah, I'm only looking at CeeDee Lamb to pass the ball to, and Dalton Schultz always.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move on to this next 425 matchup. The 5-4 Cincinnati Bengals travel to Pittsburgh to take on the 3-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. This game has a 41.5 point total, where the Cincinnati Bengals are 4.5 point home or road favorites, rather. In terms of weather, we're okay. In terms of injuries, running backs for Cincinnati, Chris Evans limited with a knee. Wide receiver Jamar Chase is out with a hip. And then for Pittsburgh, cornerback Akila Witherspoon is out. In terms of this matchup, Greg, where are you going?
With this game, I'm gonna take the over as well. I'm gonna take Cincy to cover, Cincy to win. For the Cincy side, this is a great spot here for Joe Burrow. He seems to be either nuclear hot or just average. So I think this is one of those nuclear games. And Joe Mixon, great spot here as well. I think the pieces for the Bengals should roll on this one, especially the receivers, T. Higgins and both Tyler Boyd. Joe Mixon being an RB1, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, I think both can hit that wide receiver one category. T. Higgins for sure, but Tyler Boyd, wide receiver two, wide receiver one upside. Hayden Hurst, also a tight end one. I think in this one, a low end tight end one. And then on the Steelers side, Najee Harris is a RB3 with some RB2 upside. Just hopefully he can get maybe a touchdown here. Pat Freiermuth is the main pass catcher I'm looking at as a solid tight end one, and Deontay Johnson low in wide receiver two.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Pittsburgh to cover the 4.5. I will take Cincinnati to win. Pittsburgh dominated this game the last time these two teams played. That was very early in the year, though.
That was the first game of the year when Joe Burrow had the worst game of his career, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they still
went on to be like, I think they were 0-2. We're trying to avoid 0-3 against the Jets, but they then have since turned their season around to be 5-4. But I think Pittsburgh does keep it close in this one. Their defense is pretty much that same defense that it was in week one.
TJ Watt,
TJ Watt was out for since that game. So I think we probably see something similar to that. But either way, from Cincinnati, Joe Burrow RB1, Joe Mixon RB1, Joe Burrow a top 3 option at the position. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, they're both wide receiver ones. Hayden Hurst, a tight end one. And then for Pittsburgh, Najee, probably an RB2. Was dealing with a knee injury apparently, but he's not on the injury report. Jaylen Warren, he's in play as a running back too, especially with the potential game script of them, maybe being down in this game. And then Pickens and Deontay Johnson, they're both wide receiver 3s with wide receiver 2 upside for me in this one. You're muted. Yeah.
Do actually like Pickens. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then Freiermuth, the tight end 1 option. Sorry, I didn't mention
lock him in.
Let's move on to this next matchup. The 7-2 Kansas City Chiefs take on the 5-4 Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football, 8:20 p.m. This game has a 50-point total, where the Chiefs are 6.5-point road favorites, rather. In terms of injuries, for Kansas City, Jerick McKinnon was limited with a hamstring and a shoulder. Marquez Valdez-Scantling was DNP early in the week with an illness. Mecole Hardman, wide receiver, placed on injured reserve with an abdomen injury. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster remains in concussion protocol, was listed as out for this game, will not play. And then for for the Los Angeles Chargers, Gerald Everett, he's limited with a groin. Mike Williams, he's limited with an ankle, but he seems like he may make his return to action this Sunday. So that'd be a huge get for the Los Angeles Chargers. Keenan Allen, He is limited with a hamstring. Uh, he seems to be more 50-50 to play. I would not bank on him playing. I would have contingency plans in place. And then DeAndre Carter, the wide receiver, is questionable in this one. In terms of this game here, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Chargers to cover. I will take the Kansas City Chiefs to win. However, for Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, he's a QB1. Travis Kelce, the tight end one. Kadarius Toney, this is the game, right? Like there's no Juju Smith-Schuster, there's no Mecole Hardman. MVS has been limited, and by the way, he's MVS, which for me means a lot because I've been one of his biggest supporters. Um, so Kadarius Toney, this is the Kadarius Toney game. I think he's a high-end wide receiver too, should be treated as such. Pacheco, I think this is the game for him as well. The Chargers are a terrible run defense. Pacheco is, we saw him get a little bit more run last week in a better game script. I think he gets that this week. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, QB1, Austin Eckler, an RB1. Mike Williams, again, seems like he'll play, so he's a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. Not counting on Keenan Allen, but you can play DeAndre Carter if need be. And then Gerald Everett, he's a tight end 1 if he can go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under. I'm gonna take the Chargers to cover, but I'm gonna take the Chiefs to win. On the Chiefs side, I pretty much agree with you. Patrick Mahomes, Patty, QB1, Travis Kelce, his main guy, tight end 1 for sure. As far as the receivers, Kadarius Toney is in a good spot here, coming off his best game of the season last week, gaining the momentum, more understanding the playbook. I think he's got wide receiver 2 value in this one. Um, and as far as the other pieces, it's tough, but yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Cardarius being the guy, or Pacheco as well. Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon, I think, are both in that top 30, but Pacheco has the higher upside. And then on the Charger side, Herbert in a great spot here. He's a QB1. Austin Eckler also a RB1. Helps Herbert. That he's got one of the receivers back, Mike Williams possibly two, but definitely Mike Williams being there, wide receiver 2, strong wide receiver 2 with the wide receiver 1 upside. I definitely agree with you. And yeah, Josh Palmer kind of gets that bump down, especially if Keenan Allen also comes back. But if it's not Keenan Allen, then I'm looking at Palmer as being that second receiver, wide receiver 3 with some wide receiver 2 upside.
Yeah, this one
Oh, and Jared
should be
Everett
a good
love
one.
this game. Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah. Herbert seems to always come to play when he's playing the Chiefs.
That's how he was born into the NFL, right? He knows
Yes,
no other
sir.
way.
Yes, sir.
um, Still can't believe that my man literally found out like 2 minutes before kickoff that he was going to start against the Chiefs and just balled.
Yeah, in Arrowhead
Forever
too.
ingrained in
Yeah,
Arrowhead, forever ingrained
yeah.
in my brain. Um, let's move on to this next matchup, the last matchup on the week, Monday Night Football. The 5-4 San Francisco 49ers travel to Arizona to take on the 4-6 Arizona Cardinals. This game has a 43.5-point total, where the San Francisco 49ers are 8-point road favorites.
Whew.
In terms of weather, we're okay. It's in a dome. In terms of injuries, Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray, questionable with a hamstring, will be a game time decision for Monday Night Football. Please have a contingency plan in place. Colt McCoy, he was off the injury report, was dealing with a knee injury, but seems like he's good to go. Marquise Hollywood Brown, designated to return from the injured reserve with that foot injury, has not been activated yet, but he is eligible to play on Monday if activated. Zach Ertz was placed on injured reserve with a knee injury. And then for San Francisco, Samson Ebukam, the edge rusher, he's questionable with a quad. Eric Armstead, the defensive lineman, is questionable with a foot and a leg. And the wide receiver, Danny Gray, he's questionable here with an ankle. Greg, what say you?
I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the Cardinals to cover, but I'm gonna take the Niners to win. On the Niners side, Jimmy G, same play as he is always week. He's always in that streaming category, but he's gonna give you a safe yardage. Hopefully, he can get you some touchdowns though. Didn't get any last week, but still get you closer than 250 yards passing. As far as the other guys, Christian McCaffrey, RB1, should hopefully be favored to score a touchdown again. Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Both are playable. I think Debo Samuel has higher upside, more of a low end wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Brandon Ayuk, low end wide receiver 2. But he can, break out for a big play at any point. George Kittle, strong tight end 1. He has an excellent matchup in this spot right here. So definitely play him. Smash spot here. On the Cardinal side, if Kyler Murray can go, obviously you're playing him. If not, I think adding Colt McCoy right now would not be a bad plan. So to have him ready just in case Kyler Murray can go. If you're the manager of Kyler Murray, James Conner is in strong RB2. Tough matchup here, but I think he's in play. D Hop, wide receiver 1. I'm a wait if Marquise Bollywood Brown, if you're the manager. I think come off an injury, wouldn't be too bullish on him to come back and just kill right away. So Rondo Moore, I think, is a wide receiver 3 still in this matchup.
I'm gonna take the under here. Going to take Arizona to cover. Going to take San Fran to win. For Arizona, Kyler Murray is interesting if he can go, right. Like I think he probably has quarterback 1, like the quarterback 1 upside if he can go and he's healthy. The matchup is nice, but I'm willing to pivot. Like in super flex leagues, I'm willing to pivot to Colt McCoy. In one quarterback leagues, if Kyler's your only chance to win, you strongly feel that way, then you hold out hope, I guess. But I would pivot. I would go to Daniel Jones. I would go to, hopefully, like maybe you have Justin
At this
Fields.
point, Brissett, maybe Heineke.
Brissett. Heineke's tough though, right? Because the like he's stream worthy. Like the matchup is not great. Like, would you feel comfortable going Heineke over Colt McCoy?
Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, I think so slightly. I don't think they're gonna. I think Heineke's not that much of an upgrade. I think they finish around maybe the same spot, but slightly Heineke. Yeah.
So then I would, in that scenario, I'd probably lean like holding out hope for Kyler Murray, and then playing
And then just
Colt
play
McCoy.
Yeah, if he doesn't.
Yeah. If he doesn't play.
It doesn't make that huge of a difference to drop someone or for Heineke. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and at least if Kyler Murray goes to, you'd have to drop somebody, right? Because if I see you and like you're my opponent and you have Kyler Murray in your lineup and I see you're holding out hope, like I will pick up Colt McCoy.
Oh yeah.
And I'll be like,
absolutely.
Yeah, like
opponents get Colt McCoy. Yeah, lock that in.
lock that in. I'm gonna take Colt McCoy, right? So
worst case scenario would be if the Kyler Murray, they end up trying to pivot to another quarterback. Kyler Murray does end up playing and then he kills.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, the other guy, I know he's probably not available, but in some leagues out there, he is available, is Jimmy G, right? Like I would just
true.
play Jimmy G, right? In the same game, same matchup, just pick him up and start him. But yeah, it's really a coin flip if Kyler Murray plays or not. So just again, have a contingency plan ready. Whether he plays or not, D Hop is a wide receiver 1. Rondale Moore has been so good in PPR leagues. Like he's been fantastic. So I'm going to continue to roll him out there as a wide receiver 1. Hollywood could return, but I need to see him get out there first. Like you said, like coming off this injury, like I'm not really rushing to play him. Especially he came back from this injury relatively quick, and from what I read, there's a high risk of re-injury. Just the nature of the injury and how quickly he's returned. So not really going to play him in season long. James Conner, he's an RB2. I think he gets a slight upgrade if Murray can't go. I think we see a little bit more traditional offense, and he gets, bulk of the red zone work, as it is anyway. So, James Conner, definitely, again, strong RB2. I would keep an eye out on Keontae Ingram, though. Like we obviously know James Conner's injury history. That was one of the big reasons why I had been talking about Eno Benjamin for so long, and it ended up working out for us for a little bit. Keontae Ingram, talented rookie, just he's literally the next man up. So just keep that in mind. Trey McBride, our stream of the week at tight end 1 upside, and then for San Francisco, CMC and RB1, Elijah Mitchell and RB3. Brandon Ayuk, I believe, is a wide receiver one. He's been, I think, over 70 or 80 receiving yards in like his last 3 or 4 games. Jimmy G has QB1 upside. George Kittle has top five, top five upside in this in a great matchup here. And then Debo Samuel, he's been really disappointing as of late. I'm going to have him here as a wide receiver 3 until we see more production from him.
Got you.
All right, let's move on to that money time, man. He starts to the week. Greg, your quarterback start of the week, man. What do you got?
Gotta go, my man Joe Shiesty, Joey B, Joe Burrow going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just in the matchup here, I think the receivers on the outside are in a smash spot here. So I think Joe Burrow will look to attack that in the passing game. Again, he's been really nuclear, or has been average. So I think this is going to be a hit for one of those 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdown, 3 touchdown games, getting close to 300 yards. Joe Burrow should in this smash spot here.
Nice, man. I like this one. The math bears out. I'm going somewhere close to your heart, Greg.
Hmm.
Going with your guy, Daniel Jones. We're gonna retire the Danny Dimes moniker
Oh yeah,
because
no, Danny Wills.
Danny Wills. That's cool. I
Yeah.
liked what Saquon called him.
What do you say? Daniel Jones?
Vanilla Vic.
Vanilla Vic, yo. I like the alliteration, so I like it. I'll take it.
Yeah, so Vanilla Vic gets a fantastic
Vanilla Vic.
matchup versus Detroit here, who's ninth. They allow the ninth most fantasy points to the quarterback position and over their last 3 games. Daniel Jones has had some big games this year. He's 8th amongst quarterbacks playing this week in terms of fantasy points per dropback. Detroit allows the most fantasy points per dropback amongst defenses playing this week, and that combination makes for the second best matchup on the week, behind only Justin Fields against Atlanta. So Detroit has allowed 16 or more fantasy points to the quarterback position in 7 of 9 games this season. They've allowed 20 plus fantasy points in 5 of 9 games this season. Daniel Jones, top 7 option this week. Lock it in.
Yeah, man. Daniel Jones is a living example that you can wait and just draft a Russian quarterback in the fantasy draft. Like,
Draft? You
yeah,
mean pick one up off
yeah.
waivers because my man was
That too.
free.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, man. Like, yeah, that he is full, like, brings the full era of Russian quarterbacks all together. So yeah, definitely liking him.
Most definitely, Vanilla Vic. Greg, your running back start of the week, brother. What do you got?
I'm gonna go with Cordell Patterson going against the Chicago Bears in this matchup. I think he's got a solid matchup here, definitely against the Chicago rush defense. It's going to be a high scoring game, and Cordell Patterson being, I think, their best playmaker on the team right now, coming off an off game, but I think he gets back to getting into the end zone, still at a high touchdown mark and high red zone usage. So I think he's going to get back to where he was a couple weeks ago and what he was early in the season, getting a high carry number, close to 20, and getting in the end zone. Cordell Patterson, let's go.
Yeah, man, I like that one. I'm gonna go with a guy we've been a huge fan of on this show for a long time since he got into the league. Antonio Gibson, AG,
AG.
going up against Houston. Just when we thought AG was a goner, man, my man is here and he needs to be in your lineups. Since week 6, when Brian Robinson, really entered the fold for Washington, we thought AG was nothing more than a desperation flex, RB3 at that point. He's been the RB22 in PPR points per game at just over 13 points per game since that time. I know that Brian Robinson saw 26 carries, and I think you can start him in this great matchup against Houston. But like I said earlier, he's both touchdown and game script dependent. So for me, Eileen Gibson, who has top 12 upside in this matchup, regardless of how the game flow goes.
Love it for sure.
Greg, your wide receiver start of the week this week.
Gotta go with my guy T. Higgins going against the Steelers in that same matchup, tied to Joe Burrow, getting that start of the week stack. I mean, he's going to be the lead guy for Joe Burrow in the absence of Jamar Chase. Last week had 8 targets. He's been getting close to that 10 target number in his last 4 weeks. So love it here. And he's got a great matchup on the outside. He should be one of the people that gets in the end zone, has a big day, has one of those monster days for him. So I love T. Higgins in this matchup.
I like that one. Somebody who was definitely in consideration for me, but I felt like I needed to go give somebody a confident start of the week here. Somebody who's a little bit under the radar. Going with Darnell Mooney
Okay.
against Atlanta. Uh, Gets a fantastic matchup against Atlanta, who allows the most fantasy points over the last 3 games to the wide receiver position. No team on the season has allowed more targets to the wide receiver position than Atlanta, who allows 23 targets per game to the position. They are fifth in target share allowed to the position. They allow a 66.8% completion percentage to the position, which is seventh in the NFL. This is a great spot here for Mooney, who, again, I couldn't make Justin Fields my start of the week this week, it felt like, but in his homecoming game, going to Atlanta, who, by the way, could have drafted him, but didn't. Um, Definitely like this spot here for Mooney, who should bounce back after having a down week last week.
Yeah, love Mooney, love Fields. You can put him in Munich right now, London. Don't matter, man. Man, started week potential, man. Fields is on one.
On one for sure, Greg. What do we got at tight end this week?
Tight end this week, I'm going with Gerald Everett, going against the Kansas City Chiefs. Historically, he's been good against in this matchup against the Chiefs, getting averaging about 60 receiving yards, and also just the fact that it's good should be a high scoring game. Should be a game where Herbert looks to Gerald Everett in this matchup. Chiefs are not that good against the tight end position. Had a down week last week, but before that was getting 7, 9, and 8 targets per game in the last 3 weeks. Before last week, so he's definitely being used. I think he's got a good spot here to get in the end zone and get over 50 receiving yards for sure.
Yeah, I like this one a lot, Greg. I'm surprised that you didn't go with the tight end who plays against Arizona.
Yeah, I mean George Kittle
Oh,
is
that's
George
because
Kittle.
I did it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going with George Kittle against Arizona. And yeah, like you were alluding to, Greg, this one kind of feels like cheating, but not really when you consider that Kittle has been the tight end 7 in fantasy points per game since his return in week 3. That's not the top 4, top 5 guy that
That
we've
you
come to
drafted.
expect, right? But he gets the best matchup for the tight end position here. We've been targeting Arizona since the inception of this show. That is literally a fact. And so some things just don't change here. Kittle should be a top 5 tight end option this week. Lock it in.
Oh yeah, lock that in, man. George Kittle should eat.
All right, now it's time to play everybody's favorite game. Some get money.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just confirm what the matchup here is. If I'm not mistaken. Oh, I don't have the week 10 scores in here, but I do believe I won week 10, as if I'm not mistaken, Greg. You can
True.
fact check me
That's true.
on that. So I am 6-4. So I got a 2-game lead on Greg here. It is again, if you don't know the rules, you must be new to the show, but we appreciate you checking in with us and enjoying this content. So we'll discuss the rules real quick. It's a head-to-head DFS fan contest on FanDuel between Greg and myself. It's a snake-style draft. Once a player is selected, they're removed from the player pool. Greg gets the first pick in odd weeks. I get the first pick in even weeks. It is an odd week. So, Greg, who are you taking?
I'm gonna go heavy right now. I'm gonna go hard. Give my man Justin Jefferson 9100 going against Dallas. Lock it in.
Oh, man, that one hurts because he was in my lineup. But I anticipated that you would do that. Um,
J Jeff, man.
so
No more
so
Cooper Cup. It's J Jeff.
when you said Justin, I got really nervous because I
Oh,
thought you
word.
were going to take the other Justin. I'm taking Justin Fields,
Okay.
8,700 at quarterback. Just lock that in.
Oh man, the era where the one Justin you thought you were gonna say, Justin Herbert, is not crazy, yo.
Well, he's not
Crazy.
even on the main slate, but yeah, I
Oh yeah,
wouldn't take
yeah.
him.
Yeah, I know what
I
I'm
wouldn't
saying. It
take
would
him.
have been mad. Yeah, it would have not over Justin Fields these days. Yeah, so I'm gonna take Ramondre Stevenson as my RB1, 8,100 going against the Jets.
That is definitely a good one there. Trying to decide what to do with this extra money from Justin Jefferson here. Uh, I'm going to get a game stack with you. I'm going to go CD Lamb at my first wide receiver slot, 8,100. Slide him in right there.
I'm gonna take as my RB2 Alvin Kamara, who's at 7,500. Pretty cheap for Alvin Kamara, but yeah, I'm gonna slide him in there.
That is pretty cheap for the kid. For me, as my second wide receiver, I'm gonna go with Darnell Mooney, my wide receiver start of the week, 6,000.
As my second receiver, I'm gonna take Darius Slayton, 6,300, going against Detroit.
Just trying to make some decisions here. I got all this extra money after okay, hold on. For my first running back, I'm gonna go my running back start of the week, Antonio Gibson, who's 6,600.
As my third wide receiver, I'm gonna take Michael Pittman Jr., 6,700, going against Philly.
Okay. As my wide receiver, or as my tight end, actually, I'm gonna go Dalton Schultz, 5,900, going up against Minnesota.
My tight end, I'm gonna take Hayden Hurst, 5,200, going against Pittsburgh.
As my RB2, I'm gonna go DeAndre Swift, 6,700, going up against the New York Giants.
Okay. I'm gonna do a double tight end here since I have not a lot of money. I'm gonna take Pratt Firemouth in my flex, 5,400. Slide him in there.
All right, bet. So at defense, I'm gonna go the Pittsburgh Steelers, 3,800.
At my quarterback position, taking my quarterback start of the week, Joe Burrow, 8,300. Let's go.
As my third wide receiver, I'm gonna go Donovan Peoples-Jones, 5,900.
Like that for sure. And at my defense, real cheap, going Carolina Panthers, 3,300, going against Baltimore.
For my flex spot, had to go from one Minnesota Viking to another. Gonna go with Dalvin Cook.
Like it.
8,300.
Yes, sir.
All right, Greg, why don't you read off that lineup of yours, man?
Joe Burrow going against Pittsburgh, 8,300. Alvin Kamara, RB1, 7,500. Ramondre Stevenson at 8,100. Michael Pittman Jr. at the wide receiver spot, 6,700. Justin Jefferson, 9,100. Wide receiver. Darius Slayton at that wide receiver 3 spot, 6,300. Hayden Hurst at my tight end spot, 5,200. My flex spot, another tight end, Pat Freiermuth, 5,400. And the Carolina Panthers defense at 3,300.
And for me, I've got at my quarterback spot Justin Fields, 8,700. At running back, Antonio Gibson, 6,600. As my RB2, I've got DeAndre Swift, 6,700. At wide receiver, I've got Darnell Mooney, 6,000. CD Lamb, 8,100 as my wide receiver 2. Donovan Peoples-Jones in as my wide receiver 3, 5,900. At tight end, I've got Dalton Schultz, who's also 5,900. And then in my flex spot, I've got Dalvin Cook at 8,300 going up against Dallas. And then Pittsburgh defense going up against Cincinnati for 3,800. And yeah, hopefully, let's see if Greg can pull within one game here.
Gotta get a streak going.
Make this thing interesting. So, with that being said, y'all, we appreciate you. We appreciate you checking in with us and vibing with us on this Saturday. Monday when we recap all the action that took place. And until next time, y'all, enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. And we'll talk to y'all on Monday. Peace.
Yeah.